This is absolute chaos, so hang on a second. Since I've made a mess, these will be in no particular order. I did it. I got 20 of my favorite books from 2020. At least if I counted right. I hope I counted right. I counted right. I can count. Look at that. My 20 favorite books from 2020. I have been thinking about this since I did the mid-year book freakout tag, because I was like, oh, I've read over 20 books. I can do 20 favorites, you know? My hair looks like really frizzy, just as a side note. I haven't done anything with it. This is like air dried hair. Anyways, I also can't wear like bold makeup and look good with blue hair, which I'm very upset about. Side note. Okay. I have included, how have I done this? I have like favorite series that I've read, or like duologies, or like there's multiple books that I read from series that I loved this year. I have tried to pick out my favorite book from that series, and that's what I have here. So there's no series duplicates. There's no author duplicates, I think, in here. There shouldn't be. So I've like spread it out across a variety of things, but these are my favorites. Most of these are fantasy, I will tell you that. But I have one that's not fiction. I did good. Like, look at me. Branching out. I'm trying to read a bunch of stuff, just different things, you know? And I started this list after I did my mid-year book freakout tag, but when I did it then, I was like, oh, I read like a lot of great books in the beginning of the year, and then after that it was really hard to pick and choose which ones were my favorite books. I was being more critical because I was like, oh, let's like pick which ones I think will be great. So like I had to make some last minute decisions, and there's probably some that I am missing. I did read 131 books in 2020, which is a lot. It's a lot. So if I miss out some, like that's fine, like they're on my Goodreads. I know that I'm probably missing. Some of these are actually rated 4 stars, and they still they still made it on to this list. Most of them though are rated 5 stars, because my 5-star qualification is that it has to make it onto my favorite reads list, or a favorite reads list of the year. When I changed how I rate my books, I added that kind of like little thing in. So most of these are 5 stars, but some of them are 4 stars, which is a miracle. But we're gonna start anywhere, just random. Most of these books are just spread out on my bed. They're not in any order. I just took them off my shelf and was like, let's read this is added to the list, basically, is what happened. Where shall we start? Let's start with this one. This one is shiny, so we're gonna start with it. This is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is actually the collector's edition, which is nice. It is a signed copy, which is really fun. This was the only one they had in the store when I purchased it. And this was fantastic. I think I ended up reading, I didn't end up like reading this copy. I was reading it on script in class at the beginning of the year. And I almost cried a bunch of times in class because I was reading this book. So, that's just what I told you. And I love Angie Thomas, and I was going to include her other book that she had released in 2020, which is, oh my gosh, On the Come Up. But I was like, author exclusive, 1 per author, Angie Thomas, The Hate You Give. I gave this 5 stars. Fantastic, amazing. I also do not own they just came out with the shiny silver edition of On the Come Up as the collector's edition, but I have the original version and I also have it signed. So I like the original version, but this is fun. There's like a light over there that's being reflected. But yes, 5 stars, made it onto my favorite books of 2020. Random, let's pick this bright one. This one was fun. This is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This is like a horror book, basically. I did not know that when I picked it up. It's fun. The cover is fun because it has the female version of a bunch of animals, what they're called. So there's a vixen for a fox, a cow for an elephant, a Jill for an otter, a queen for a cat, and then the dog is scribbled out, which I think is funny, and then woman. This one is about this girl Alex, who's kind of like a loner, and she ends up like making some friends, gets a boyfriend, moves on with her life, but she has killed somebody and she will kill again. And she's like 16, 17. They're like about to go to college, and she's like, I don't know what my life will be like out in the real world. And it's this whole adventure, and it's very fun, and I gave it 5 stars, and I think I read it in like a day. It was like, sucked me in. I didn't think I would like a horror book this much, but this was really, really good. And I loved it, and it's bright, so I'll always remember it. I like the bright colors. It's very fun. It says on the back, the female of the species is more deadly than the male, which is wild. This was like so good. If you want like, it's not, I guess not like a light-hearted horror, but like a faster teenager-y horror. It is in the young adult section. This is more of like a, I'm being introduced to horror. I'm new to horror. This is great. Random pick. Okay, let's go for, this is the one book in this pile that's not fiction. And you're gonna look at me like I'm crazy, but I promise this book is amazing. There's also a movie, so you can watch the movie, but it is Denial, Holocaust History on Trial by Deborah E. Lipstadt. This, oh my gosh, it's a major motion picture starring this lady, Rachel Weisz. I don't know how to say her last name, sorry. That lady. She looks very familiar. But this Deborah lady who wrote the book, it's her story, her like telling us what happened when she wrote a book, and she not like briefly, but she mentioned in here that this man, David Irving, and the book was called Denying the Holocaust. She mentioned that David Irving was a Holocaust denier and provided like sources and stuff, and he was like and so he sued her for saying that he was a Holocaust denier, and she had to prove that he is in fact a Holocaust denier. And this is the entire story of what happened. This happened like modern times. Like the first book that she released that he hated was released in 1993, so it's still kind of like recent, and it's wild. Like I loved this from start to finish. Especially like when the trial started. Oh my gosh, so good, so good. And that's why I made it onto my favorites of 2020. Alright, next one. I'll pick out this one. I do not have the copy of the book that I'm actually including. It's the book after this one because I'm waiting for the paperback. Okay, it's Rusha and the Tree of Wishes. So this is the Song of Death. This is the one before. Tree of Wishes I read in this, and it is part of the Pandava Quartet by Roshni Chashki. Sorry. And it's amazing. It's a middle grade. See, I was like all over the board with my reading, like doing all these crazy things. Who am I this year? I love it. It's a middle grade about Rusha and her friends Minnie and Bree. Minnie and Bree are Pandavas, and they have to save the world. And I love this so much. It's Percy Jackson vibes, but with a different godly parents, because it's in oh my gosh, what religion is it? I was so not prepared apparently to talk about this. Basically, if you love Rick Riordan as much as I do, please read the Rick Riordan Presents. This is the only series that I've read from there so far. There's still one more book to come out in 2021, and I will be reading it immediately. But this is amazing, and Roshni Chachki is incredible. Her mind is just like, I love the Otherworld market in here. That is my favorite place that they go to, because it's basically like a giant Costco with magical items. I think that's how she describes it too, but like, I love this. I also love like the spiritual aspects of it, because those are fantastic. I love Minnie. She's my favorite character. Rusha has a lot of stuff she needs to work on, but in the Tree of Wishes, which is the one after this one, the one that I'm adding to the list, they discover all of the rest of the Pandavas, so there's 5 of them in total. They find the other 2, and they're so little. They're all girls though, and it's great. And they're like reincarnated from the original Pandava brothers. They always get reincarnated, but this time they reincarnated as girls, which was wild, and people are like, what the heck? And their wife that the original Pandava brothers gets reincarnated as this dude whose friend, his name is Aiden. He's friends with Bree from their whole childhood, and they literally call him Wifey, and I think it's so funny. They're like, oh, Wifey, stop complaining. Like, it's so good. I love it. Anyways, you should read this. Please read this. I gave that one 5 stars, obviously. Shall we pick a 4-star read? Sure, let's pick a 4-star read. This one was a 4-star read. The Lanterns Ember by Colleen Hewick. I love Colleen Hewick. She is very problematic, and I understand how she is problematic with her Tiger's Curse series. I understand the bad parts of it, but I do appreciate the stuff that went into it, and I like the story. This one is completely different, basically. Did not expect this from her, and I only gave it 4 stars. I love the concept. I love the entire book. I love all the characters, but it was so fast-paced, and I think that she could have turned this into a duology at the very least, not just one book. There could have been so much more. This is the smallest book I own by Colleen Hewig. She could have done way more. It was almost like somebody put her on a time limit and she had to speed up. She could have done way better. And I love the concept. I love everything about this. But there could have been way more. But it still made itself onto my top 2020 reads, which is great. Basically, Ember is a witch. And Jack, with his lantern, he's a lantern. He has a jack-o'-lantern as his lantern. As like a cliche typical thing. He is supposed to tell the other world when he discovers a witch in our world, because they need to be getting rid of. They don't like the witches. They need to get rid of the witches because the witches can retaliate, I guess. They have enough power to stop the king of the other world. So the lantern's job is to tell them when he finds a witch, but he finds Ember and he's like, oh, I'm not going to do that this time. So he doesn't, and Ember grows up and she wants to go to the other world where Jack is, the crossroads to get there, and she ends up finding a vampire who's going to take her there anyways, even though Jack won't, because they do grow up as like friends while she grows up. And so she goes there, and then Jack is like, oh my god, she cannot be there. She needs to live, she needs to survive, the king will find her. And it's this whole adventure with the vampire and Jack and Ember. I can't remember the vampire's name for the life of me, but it's really, really fun and really, really exciting. And the cover is just gorgeous, right? Like, look at that. Spooky. I gave it 4 stars. It could have been so much more. Back to a 5-star read. Let's go with this one. This is Deathless Divide by Justina Ireland. Look at the beautiful cover. Oh my gosh. This is the sequel to Dread Nation, which I have spoken about so highly, and I love it. This is a 5-star. Oh my gosh, I love it. I also love that they're hardcovers because they look amazing. They are huge. These are so worth it though. It's just a duology, but our main character, oh my gosh, what's the main character's name? Jane. This is Jane right here on the cover. Is with her friend Catherine, is this lady here. And this takes place in Civil War-esque era America. And basically what happened was the Civil War never really ended. The North and the South were fighting and everything was going the way it was, and then everybody turned into zombies. And they started training people of color to kill the zombies because white people thought they were immune. So they were like, you know what, you'll kill the zombies for us. And it is super, obviously it's like the 1850s, right? That's when it happened. Super terrible. But anyways, and Jane is from her point of view mostly, and she's just trying to survive around a bunch of stupid white people. They're so stupid. The things that they do. Oh my god. Anyways, not to mention, she is like hella bisexual, and I love it. She is like one of my favorite main characters. I just love her. I also love Catherine. Catherine has some really good development in this book. Compared to the last book, because she was a dick. Her and Jane did not get along, and in this book they are best friends, and it's so cute and I love it. But yes, I don't know any other zombie book that I've enjoyed as much as I have enjoyed this. I don't think I've ever finished another zombie book, let's be real. 10 out of 10 amazing. Alright, what's next? Let's talk about this one. This is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. I also would like to include My Calamity Jane, which is the 3rd book in this series, but I said I was not repeating series books, even though they are like, you can read them in any order and it'll still make sense. They're like standalone series, I guess. I don't know how else to describe them. Anyways, My Lady Jane is Lady Jane Grey gets married because her cousin King Edward needs her to get married so that she can become queen when he dies, because he's dying. And he is very young and somebody's poisoning him. Not on top of that, people can turn into animals. They're called Ethians. They just turn into whatever animal is like in their soul, in their heart. So Jane, my Lady Jane Grey, gets married to this lord guy because they pick him. He's like, oh, he'll make a good king when I appoint her as queen. And this man, she doesn't know because they get married at night. During the night, he is a man. During the day, he is a horse. He has a curse as an Ethian that he cannot be a man during the day. Oh my god, it was so good. It was so good. This whole story is like wonderful and amazing, and oh, I love everybody in here. I love the concept of the Ethians, and they're releasing a Mary continuation from the Mary Queen of Scots. As she's an Ethian, she turns into a mouse when she comes back from France. They're like releasing a book with her in it. Oh my god, I'm so excited it's coming out this year. Very excited. That was a 5-star read for me. Sure, let's do another 4-star. The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the sequel to the 5th season, which I also read this year. I just have one left in this, and I give this one 4 stars. It's like teetering on 5-star. Like it's almost there, which is why it's included in my favorite books of 2020. I forgot what I was filming for a second. And this is kind of amazing, and you learn a lot of stuff in it, which is why I like it better than the 5th season, because the 5th season was a little confusing. I do like the fantasy world. It was a lot of world building and character building and seeing who is who in the 5th season, only to find out that who is all the same. If you know, you know. But this one was a lot more world focused with information heavy and learning that I really, really appreciated about the world a lot more than the other one was. So I included this one, but this is an island, I guess. I guess it's like an island. It's one land. There's a map, I think. There's a map in the first one, where this place here is kind of like ending and ending and ending. The world just keeps ending and ending and ending because the tectonic plates and the other things and all the stuff. But in this one you find out why the world is the way that it is and what really happened thousands of years ago and why they have the seasons that they have, because their seasons are not like summer, winter, fall, that kind of stuff. Their seasons are like, this is when the volcanoes are erupting, this is when things are shifting. Like, those are their seasons, I think, if I can remember. But anyways, amazing fantasy, and I cannot wait to finish it. What's another good one? Let's talk about this one so that I could just get it over and done with, because I'm sure you guys are all sick of me talking about it. It's Court of Mist and Fury. Obviously. I've read it twice this year, that's how much I loved it. If you don't know what this is about, Feyre saves the world. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling inside of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I kind of wish I could live here. I would want to live in the Summer Court, honestly, because it sounds wonderful to me. Summer or day or dawn. Day or dawn would be very fun. Even night would be fine, but I don't like cold winters, says the person who lives in Canada. Too far north for me. But 5 stars both time I read it. I had a lot of fun. Yeah, that's all I have to really say. The pile is dwindling. The pile is dwindling. Here, let's go with this one. Since I am known as a werewolf obsessed, Soulless by Gail Carriger. This is a fun copy. It looks gorgeous. There's no other copies like this for the other books, so the rest of them are not going to match. I only picked up this book because I picked it up off the shelf. It was the only one there, and it was signed. Like, wonderful. I love Gail Carriger. She's liked a couple of my Instagram posts of me posting her other series, Quentin Espionage. This is, I think, set in the same world, but this is an adult version. The main character, oh my gosh, what's her name? Alexia, is soulless. She doesn't have a soul. So vampires can't bite her, werewolves don't turn around her. She doesn't know quite the extent of her powers, but she doesn't have a soul. So, I mean, like, it's fine. And that's how they find out who she is, because a vampire tries to bite her and his fangs literally retract. So that's fun. But she falls in love with the alpha werewolf man, and it's wonderful, and I love this story. She's kind of badass without even really trying, because she doesn't have a soul, so she, like, her personality is kind of lacking the way they describe her. It's like, she looks fashionable, but she didn't really put anything into it. It's basically what happens. I think I gave this one 4 stars, but it was very fun, and I will continue eventually. I think this was the first book that I really, really liked from the year, other than Denial, because I read Denial really, really early. but this one I also read really, really early, and it is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. And I still have yet. Richard Mayhew saves the life of a girl named Dor and ends up in the other London, underneath London, and helps her basically save the world, I think. Anyways, there is a TV series, and I would love it, and I think the best part, I think, of this whole thing was how the Marquis got his coat back. There's a little short story in the end, and it was very fun. And I gave it 5 stars, and this one was actually recommended to me by a coworker as one of her favorite books. And I read it, and it's now at the top of my list, and this is partially the reason why I read so many Neil Gaiman books this year, because I was like, wait, I think I like this dude. So, my favorite Neil Gaiman book? Neverwhere. Alright, what's next? We're just going all over the place. Okay, let's do this one. God's Grave by Jake Kristoff. This is my favorite book in the entire series. I know everybody's like, oh, Dark Dawn, amazing. I don't even remember what happened at the end of Dark Dawn, but God's Grave is fantastic. God's Grave, Mia is a slave on purpose. She's undercover, basically, for her own purposes, not because she's a blade of the church of the goddess. She's doing her own thing, and I love everything about this book. It was fantastic. This is after Nevernight, and Mia is badass, and I love her. There's so many things you learn in this book, and it's amazing. So if you thought the first one was okay, because I thought the first one was okay, this one is better. Continue on, and then you'll be fine. This one is amazing. Blades of Our Lady Blessed Murder. That's what it is. She's a blade. In the Red Church, she is also a Darkin. She's just really cool. She's like everything. Alright, what's next? This is just... feel like it's chaos. Okay, let's do this one. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. There we go. I don't know why that felt like a tongue twister all of a sudden. This is not only gorgeous as like a book, but gorgeous on the inside. I picked this is the first one. There is a sequel after this one. I picked this one because I like this one a lot more. And I didn't realize, I thought it was going to be just a duology, but the second book kind of ended on the worst note possible, so there's definitely gonna be more. Basically, the main characters, there's 2 of them. Zele is magical without magic because the king took the magic away from her people. She has white hair. That's how you can tell that she's supposed to have magic, and she's supposed to be a reaper. A reaper is like somebody who talks to the dead, controls the dead, helps people pass on, etc., etc. And she's far away from her clan because like her whole background, and before she was really born, I think, because her mom was one and her mom was murdered because she had her magic still, so they just took away all the magic. And this is kind of her on an adventure after her town gets attacked, trying to find magic and figuring out how to restore it. And she hangs out with like the prince and the princess, I guess. The prince, in a weird way, the princess, because she's basically saving her life. It's very interesting, the magic in here, and the way that people treat each other is just awful, and the history of the world I find incredible. I love the history of the world, and the island that they live on is very, very fun. There's a map. There's a map. That's the map. I love book maps, if you couldn't already tell. But this one was amazing, and I gave it 5 stars. What shall we pick next? Let's go for this one. I've been like raving about this all year, even though it took me so long to read it, and I have not continued the series. I really, really should. And this is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is now my favorite author thanks to this little book right here. There's a different name for this one as well. But anyways, if you love high fantasy, or if you want to get into high fantasy, or if you want to start with Brandon Sanderson, this is where you should start. This is amazing. It is about this girl, Vin, who discovers she is Mistborn through the help of Kelsier. And Kelsier is also Mistborn, and together he trains her to be a Mistborn with a bunch of other people. And the Mistborn people are people who can burn all the elements and control, not all the elements, sorry, all the metals. Whereas most people can just control, like, who are magical, I guess, can just burn and control one medal, Mistborn can control all of them, and they're very rare. And when they're being trained and stuff, they wear these cloaks that you can tell that they're the Mistborn, even though you don't know who the heck they are. And they're kind of like identified as like top tier up there, and they just are like avoided. If you see them out training, you're just like, avoid the Mistborn basically, because they could fuck you up. And Vin and Kelsier are amazing, and I love them, and I cannot wait to continue this on, because Kelsier is like trying to run a rebellion against the Lord guy. I cannot remember they call him Lord Ruler, and he's been in power for thousands of years. Like so long. And I love the history of this book. I heard somebody say that this takes place in the same universe as The Way of Kings, but I'm not sure if that's right. But this is a fantastic place to start if you want high fantasy or Brandon Sanderson. Amazing. Next we'll go with another 4-star book. How about that? This one took me a long time to read. It took me almost a year to read this. I finished it recently. I don't know. I would pick it up every like couple of months and then put it back down. And I have the audiobook, so it should have been like easier, but apparently not. And it is Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. I have the wonderful editions. I'm going to tell you, I had no idea what this book was about when I found it and discovered it. What I did is I have the, so see how there's like a lady on the front cover here? Margaret Atwood has 4 books that all match up and make a lady. Together. This is one of them. Another one above this one, I think, or at the angle of this one, is The Handmaid's Tale. And I got that copy of The Handmaid's Tale, and I was like, wait, there's other books that match up? And I just immediately bought the other 2 books, or other 3 books, I guess. And this is the first one I picked up from that. And it was amazing. Grace, the main character of this story, was charged with murder when she was 16. And this is her at, I think, about 30, recounting her entire life up until the murder point. And she's telling a doctor because he's trying to decide if she should be released after these 15 years of being stuck in an asylum and in prison. Like if she should be released or if she should stay there until she dies. So this is her recounting her entire life, telling the doctor everything so that she could be released. She's wasted most of her like adult life in there, and it's amazing. It's incredible. There is a mini series. It's right now on Netflix because I just finished watching it, and it's, oh my gosh, so good. Even though I gave this book 4 stars because it took me so long to read, it was very confusing for myself. I did that to myself. That's my fault. But this was, oh my gosh, so good. Like, I loved it. I love, like, every time I pick up Margaret Atwood, I'm like, wow, I love Margaret Atwood. I should continue to read her stuff, and then I never do. I still have more. I have the other 2 books that match up with the lady, so I will get there. We have 5 books left to talk about. This is gonna be like the longest review video ever, but that's okay. Let's go with this one. This one is not actually the book that I had picked, but I do not have the book right now because it is being lent out because I loved it so much I lent it out to other people. But I am doing, this is Maureen Johnson. This is Truly Devious, but the one after this one is The Vanishing Stair. So The Vanishing Stair, I read Truly Devious I think in 2019, and I read The Vanishing Stair and then the one that came after it in 2020. And The Vanishing Stair is my favorite book in the entire series. It was amazing. I never thought I would like a mystery book, but I really, really like this series. This is like a good place to start with some mystery. If you don't like mystery, I hate mysteries. I hate thrillers, I hate mysteries, but this was amazing. I cannot describe to you how much I love this. In Truly Devious, the main character, what's her name? I hate that I forget everybody's name. Stevie. Stevie gets to go to Ellingham Academy. It is very prestigious. You have to impress them to get in, because they give you like special learning that helps you with like your specific hobby. So for example, there's like somebody who's an engineer, so they get their alone time in like this building where they get to just make stuff, right? Stevie is interested in true crime, and specifically she is interested in the murder that happened in the 1920s at the Ellingham Academy originally. So she goes there. She actually impresses them enough to get to go to school there, and they're like, you like all the true crime stuff, like that's your focus. So she gets to take like anatomy classes and forensic classes and that kind of stuff. It's trying to solve the Ellingham Academy murder, which was the original owner, the guy who made the school. His daughter and wife were kidnapped and then like never returned. They they don't know if they were murdered, but they like never came back. So she's trying to figure out what happened because Mr. Ellingham died before they could figure it out, kind of thing. So Stevie is like super interested in this case and she wants to figure out what happened, so she thinks going to school there will be the best option for that. And by the end of the series, of course, she ends up figuring out what happened, not to mention some other people at her school get murdered along the way, so she solves those ones too, and it's very exciting. There's a lot of people in this book that are sketchy and a lot of people that die, and it was so good. I loved it. Dwindling down. The next book I'm going to show you is the last book in like the duology. It's Lonnie Taylor, Muse of Nightmares. Before this though, there's Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, and then this is Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares duology. And this one was so much better than Strange the Dreamer. I think I gave Strange the Dreamer 4 stars, and then I gave this one 5 stars. So in Strange the Dreamer, there's a lot of world building, I guess. It's a lot of information to take in. Not a lot of, a lot of stuff happens, but like, I don't know how to describe it, because this is like a spin-off. If you read Daughter of Smoke and Bone, this is just another world that the Seraphs went to. That takes place here. There's like a hole in their world that people go through, and the people are these blue people that are gods, and they terrorize this city for years and years and years and years by stealing people and then returning them and erasing their memories and all this stuff. And this is like after that kind of happened. The characters in here is Laszlo and Sarai are like the 2 main characters, and they kind of like talk to each other in their dreams because Sarai can go, she's the Muse of Nightmares, she brings nightmares to people, whereas Laszlo is just like a regular guy who's from the world. And it's like magical. I don't know how else to describe it. It's so magical and beautiful and gorgeous, and I love everything about it. Lonnie Taylor is just amazing. Not to mention I now have Karoo hair. I would just like to point that out. I was thinking about that the other day. But if you want something, this one, I know the first one seems like it just drags on and on and on and then ends on this wild note cliffhanger thing, and then this one just goes so fast, and this entire book takes place in like a day and a half, maybe 2 days. Like, there's so much character development in this book too. Like, oh my god, so many things happen. It's wild, but like, oh my god, you should read it. All right, the next one is kind of, I don't know how I would do this. I half read the second book to this one, and I think it's better than the first one, but I have not finished the book that I think is better than this one, if that makes sense. So it technically wasn't a 2020 read, but I'm going to go with Aragon by Christopher Paolini. I do think Eldest is a lot better than this, even though this was amazing. Oh my gosh, there's so much more of the world and the history that you get to see in this that you ever saw in the movie, and the fact that he wrote this when he was 16, it just blows my mind. Like, holy crap. If you've seen the movie and you love it, you will like this a whole lot more. I'm just saying. This is worth it. Okay, 2 more. 2 more. Let's finish off with this one, I guess. Next, Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. This is amazing. I love pirates. I love lady pirates who are also secretly magical. Daughter of the Pirate King is the princess of the pirates, and she is the best. 10 out of 10, love her. I also love the other dude, Raiden, who is the love interest. Oh my gosh. I am a sucker for pirate men. Don't come at me, okay? I love this. I need to read more pirate books is what I've discovered after reading this. I just need more. I just need more. I'm sorry. Give me all the pirate books. I also read Daughter of the Siren Queen. I read this thing in like a day. And then Daughter of the Siren Queen took me a little bit longer than that. But I still got sucked in, and I love this so much. Like, to the point where we were out of the house and I would be reading it on my phone because they have it on script. And I was like, I need to keep going, I need to keep going, I need to keep going. And it was so good. It's made itself into one of my squares up there, so that's how good it is. And finally, the last book of my top 20 out of 2020 is Romanov by Nadine Brandes. This is like a retelling of the Romanovs getting murdered basically, but it's more and less realistic at the same time than Anastasia was. The movie. Everybody's seen the movie Anastasia. I love that movie. This is like the whole family told from Anastasia's point of view, obviously, but there is magic involved in this. There's a hell of a lot of magic, and they explore Rasputin and his stuff and a bunch of other magic, and they're locked in a house together as a family trying to just like survive because they're planning on executing them or whatever, right? And the magic in here is just wonderful and amazing, and if you like Anastasia, you will love this. Not to mention, it's gorgeous. And I want to read it again, actually. It's like very short and very sweet, and it's a standalone. And oh my gosh, it's magical. Like, wow. So there you have it, folks. Those are my top 20 of 2020. Sorry it probably took so long to get here, but it's finally here. I did it. I picked 20 books I actually really liked out of the 131. I don't know if like do my least favorite books of 2020. There was probably like 3. Because I know what I like, and I picked a lot of things that I really liked this year, and I'm very proud of myself for that. I also branched out, went all over in different directions, read some nonfiction, which was wild, and had a really fun time. I cannot pick just one, so that's why I had to do 20. I mean, there's probably more, but I'm not going to pick a favorite book from this stack of 20 books, because these are my favorite books of the year. It's a lot. It's a lot. Oh man. I mean, if you want to tell me your favorite book of the year, that would be fine. I don't know what else to say. But thank you all so much for watching this video. Hopefully I'll do another video like this next year. It was very fun to figure out which ones. It's like, oh, do I like this one more than this one? Do I like this one more than this one? I don't know. We'll find out. But thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great year of reading in 2021. Goodbye!